everybody. This is Heather and Jenny with Surviving Darkness, and we are on episode 46.
I was talking to Jenny just a little bit ago, and I felt like maybe we should discuss a conversation that I had with Mom yesterday. And it really, I guess that people ask why she stayed and just different questions, just questioning why nothing was ever done and we weren't helped.
But, and it wasn't just questioning like why she stayed with everything going on with us, because she didn't know that part. Right. It was other things.
Just staying in a relationship where there was lots of verbal, mental abuse and controlling.
Mm-hmm.
So just something that she said yesterday was, I feel like if I would have left your dad, he would have killed me. And to me, it just seemed sort of ludicrous. But I guess when we were living at home, we lived in fear also. But I was like, he's not going to do anything. Why do you feel like you're going to laugh in the middle of all this? We're having a serious conversation.
Say ludicrous without me like thinking of the whole rapper Ludacris, like, and even on that commercial, when you say Ludacris, like he's the one that comes in.
She talking about?
I know who she's talking about. I don't know the commercial, but
oh,
I can.
I'm sorry, but that's why, because I was
squirrel.
It's on Pandora all the time, so I hear that commercial a lot. I'm sorry, and that's
we're in a serious conversation here, and she starts laughing.
She thought she would be killed
by Ludacris.
I was like, how ludicrous is that?
I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were going to say that word, or I would have been mentally prepared.
Anyhow, let's just go ahead, because this is a squirrel moment for Jenny.
Yes.
Jenny has them all the time.
Serious conversation, and she's busting out. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I say? I don't know. I'm just lost. But anyway.
Because you said the rapper Ludacris, and he did not show up in here.
But anyway, I've got to not look at her, because she's going to start laughing again in the middle of my talking, and I'm going to just lose track of what I was saying. She said, we're going back to Mom.
Yes. I'm on track
just
now.
reeling you back in.
We're good.
Reel, hook, sinker, okay.
I'm good.
But anyway, she said that she thought, and now I can't look at you without laughing myself.
That's ludicrous.
I know. She thought that, well, he had told her that if she ever left that he would kill her. But anyway, I was just like, no, he wouldn't. I mean, that was just my automatic gut reaction. I was like, no, he wouldn't. Because he was too afraid to go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when things came out with us, it was like, I can't go to prison and this, that, and the other. And I was like, he's not. And plus he had been married before. She's still alive.
Yeah.
So I was like, no.
And she left.
Yeah. I was like, that's just a threat to keep you there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how a lot of controlling people are.
And that's how we were controlled too, because it was, oh, if y'all turn me in or something like that, then this thing is going to take over and you all are going to have to deal with him.
And it'll kill you.
Forever, you know.
And it'll kill you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too powerful, and this, that, and the other. So yeah, I guess living in that situation for that long, you really believe it. But we got out, and it's like, no, he wasn't. He wasn't going to do nothing.
No. And she still lived that for a long time after we got out and everything, and still living in those circumstances, even though it wasn't as bad. I mean, he wasn't drinking and everything like that. It was still 38 years of being married to somebody under their thumb all the time.
Right.
And they still have that control.
Right.
And it is just a cycle that continues.
And there were times that she said that she had wanted to leave, but she didn't really have a job. She didn't work. And a lot of people get in that situation. You hear a lot of women saying, well, I couldn't leave because I had never worked. I didn't know how to take care of myself.
But she did for a long time.
Well,
it wasn't enough to,
yeah.
It wasn't enough to, she thought, to support all of us. But he wasn't able to work, and she was the one that worked during that time. I mean, no, it wasn't like full-time benefit job, but she
No.
worked. It was a full-time job. I mean,
It was it was a full-time job,
Yeah.
but it was like a private pay job without much compensation, just to
Right.
be honest with
Yeah.
you.
yes,
I mean, $300 a week. Was that
a
what
month.
it was?
It was $75 a week.
Yeah, isn't enough to live off of.
No.
So she felt that she couldn't provide for 2 kids on her own, so she stayed for that reason. And a lot of people do stay for financial reasons.
Which is a reason that we went to college, because we didn't want to have those circumstances where we're stuck in a position.
Which is another thing that she said yesterday, was that she admires the fact that we're strong enough to leave. We were strong enough to leave situations that were bad for us. That we didn't just stay there year after year after year after year and put up with that stuff. But I was like, we were just talking about just different things, and she was like, yeah, she said that your dad was honestly going to kill his brother. He had the bullets and everything and the shotgun or whatever, rifle, whatever, and he was actually going to do it. And I was like, and he went after him because his brother got the best of him. They had gotten in a little scuffle,
Mm-hmm.
and his brother had gotten the best of him, and our dad could not handle that because
Right.
he had to be the top guy, the big man. Everybody had to respect him because he was tough and all this and all that, and his brother got the best of him, and he could not deal with that.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I can't take you out with my hands, I'm gonna go get the gun.
And I didn't realize, because I was younger, so I didn't realize that that's what had led up to. I knew that there was a big fight, but I didn't know what had led up to them fighting and that all of that had happened.
Dad wasn't in the wrong with the fighting.
Right.
Because our uncle was falsely accusing his wife of stuff, and they knew better, and our dad knew exactly what was going on and who it was going on with and everything else. And it wasn't my aunt, it was my uncle, and they got into it because Dad confronted him over it, and it just got ugly, which our uncle just like ran out of the house when he realized Dad was going after the gun, which was smart. But I don't honestly know if Dad would have really done it.
I don't know either at that time. But he was drinking, and he did change a lot when he was drinking. So it's hard to tell. They both were, so it's hard to tell.
Right. And that's where I think our brother got a lot of the anger issues when he was drinking too. That's what he saw.
Mm-hmm.
Was our dad being cuckoo whenever he was drinking and mean. But we were just talking about the different things and the situations that keep people in places where they shouldn't be.
And women a lot of times don't want to leave a circumstance, even though they know it's really, really bad, because they're like, oh, well, then their kids won't have a dad or whatever. When a lot of times that would be the better of the circumstances for them to not have both parents there.
If you think about it, we're still alive, and Mom had told him that we had wanted her to leave him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he had asked me after you went to college, and that was such a hard time during those 2 weeks. And he had come in my bedroom and said, your mom told me that she thinks that I should just leave. What do you think? And I said, I'm done with all the fighting. So if that's what has to happen, then that's what needs to be done. And I said that straight to him because it was absolutely ridiculous.
And I doubt Mom even said that.
Probably not.
But
that's what he came to me and said.
It was always trying to make us think bad of her.
Mm-hmm.
Like when our aunt passed away, it was she's going to leave for his brother because she's just always been in love with him and this, that, and the other. If Mom was with him that many years, she wasn't going to leave.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I was just like, what? Why? I mean, we're devastated over so many losses so close together. And then he wants to come at us with this, well, don't be surprised if your mom leaves.
Yeah. Well, and if he knew that he didn't mistreat her and wasn't so bad to her, then he would have known that maybe she wanted to stay there.
Right.
So.
We were talking, I think it all sort of came up with, I was telling her about that message that we got from our cousin about our grandfather and how he, like, for 20 weeks or whatever, he was just like MIA, like in this like ancestry thing. And they're like, well, it makes you sort of wonder what happened to him during those 20 weeks. He worked all the time, and then there was no employment record. That he lived in a home where there was like 7, 8 kids or a large family. And then why would he just not show up anywhere for 20 weeks?
But he had mental issues too, and it's hard.
Well, he was 17 at that time. So I don't know. He may have had mental issues then too. And they didn't screen the way they screen now for military, because he did go in the military, but he came back screwed up in the head. He may have gone in screwed up in the head. We don't know.
And we have a lot of bipolar in our family, and that stuff it is genetic,
Right.
you know, and things like that. So it's highly possible.
Right. And then Mom had mentioned something about dementia, and I was like, he didn't have dementia. He had post-traumatic stress disorder. I said he was only like in his 40s when he hung himself. I was like, he didn't have dementia. It was the PTSD. And then she was saying that, you know, Dad never really talked a whole lot about his parents. I remember him saying quite a bit about them.
I do too.
But she said he never talked about his parents. And
maybe he didn't so much to her.
I don't know.
He did with us, you know, we talked about things with them. And
he would just say, you know, things would have been a whole lot better if his mom wouldn't have died.
Right.
And this, that, and the other. But I remember him actually talking about like how his dad and the abuse that he sort of went through with the step parents, and being just basically left with the girlfriends or whatever that were abusing him, and he would just go do his own thing and this, that, and the other. So, and he would talk about his mom, how he would abuse her, and she would be like, don't say nothing bad about my husband.
Yeah.
He's got issues. Don't talk bad about him to me. And he would he almost killed her like several times, beat her that bad. And she would just be like, no, that's my husband. Don't say nothing bad about him.
And that's kind of how it was then too. You know, you just weren't supposed to leave or anything like that. It didn't matter how terrible things were. That's just the way that it was in their thinking, you know.
And she had mentioned someone that she went to church with. And this woman, her husband had left when her kids were really, really little. And she talked about how the kids just held on to each other. And she didn't know at the time, but the husband had left for another man. But the kids were like really little, and they would just cling to each other. And she said, and I decided right then I wouldn't ever get divorced because I didn't want my kids to go through such trauma. And I'm like, wow. I mean, she didn't know, but I was like, I would rather have gone through the trauma of my dad leaving, even if it was with another man, than the trauma that we went through.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
But she didn't know that we were going through that. But her thoughts were these 2 little kids couldn't be more than 4 or 5 years old, and they're clingy. The mom and the kids, they're all so clingy and holding on to each other for support and everything else. She was like, I don't want my kids to go through that. But those kids also turned out awesome, even though they went through all of that. So it didn't really change how they turned out. So I don't.
And it also goes to how they were brought up after that circumstance too, you know?
Right.
I mean, like, I'm sure they were raised in church and everything like that, instead of their mom being back and forth with different men and everything like that too, you know? And so that makes a huge difference also.
Right.
So, yeah. It's hard sometimes too, because like we've said, she has so much going on mentally that you wonder, like, she's always kind of said this stuff, but at the same time, would this have been the same conversation 20 years ago if we would have been as open then as what we are now about everything, if she would have had this same conversation? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But a lot of me thinks she still would have felt that way.
Yeah.
just
And
because
then-
of the controlling and the way that he was.
And how she was raised.
Mhm.
It's you just don't get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the times. That's how things were then. You put up with whatever it was. You married him, you put up with it.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, because she had fought basically so hard to marry him, you know, because he wasn't the, I guess you'd say kind of, he was like the black sheep that married into the family, you know, which made her more the black sheep. And that would have been able, you know, kind of been saying, well, you guys were right about him, you know?
That's what she said too. She said a lot of it was pride,
Yeah, I'm sure.
that her parents didn't want her marrying him, and they would have said, well, you know, we told you.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't listen. You
Yeah.
went and married him anyway.
But I feel like after that, they would have absolutely done whatever needed to be done to help us out.
Well, that's what I say.
It wouldn't have just been, sorry about your luck. You chose that. You know, you made your bed. Now you lie in it. You know, I mean, I don't feel like that's the way it would have been. We would have had support, and she would have too.
Right. I think so too. Especially with our grandma,
Yeah.
which our grandpa died when we were so young. And I still.
And maybe if he did live longer,
Mm-hmm.
she may have felt like she had somewhere else to go.
I think things would have been a whole lot different because we had such a close relationship. I think I would have talked to my grandfather
Mhm.
about the things that were going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that my dad would have been alive, because I think he would have killed him.
Right.
I really
Mhm.
do. I mean, I loved my grandpa. I thought he was the greatest, and he was good to me and everything. But
I was
the
so
area
young.
he was raised in, he probably would have killed that.
Mhm. Only thing that would have kept him from it was
And Mom
being
talks
such a
about
Christian
him.
person, you
Right.
know. So
Mom talks about him all the time, and how him and Mom's brother fought all the time, all the
mhm.
time. And that my uncle was never good enough. He was never going to be good enough. And they just butted heads constantly. And I never saw that with my grandpa. I saw somebody totally different that, I mean, he was just the greatest thing ever. I just can't picture the person that she's saying was never happy and always fussing about something and grumbling and complaining about something. And I'm like, I can't see it.
But it's also, she grew up in that house or around that, and you
Right.
weren't there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he could have been a different person. They are with grandkids and
Right.
everything like that.
Right.
A lot of people say that, you know,
Right.
my grandkids are not my kids, and so I treat them totally different than I do my kids, you know. So,
Right.
and that's highly possible.
Right. So I think that I would have, with the relationship that I had with him, even though I was 10 when he passed away, if he would have lived longer and things were going on that were going on
Mhm.
when we got older, I think I would have been able to talk to him about it. I think we would have got that help.
And I think too, like we talked about, that because she didn't leave and we saw so much go on with her, that made us realize that we were not going to live in a marriage like that. You know, we were not going to be bullied and everything in our marriage. And so I think,
I know Jesse's going to snicker at me because, you know, he has no faith in Dr. Phil. But I was watching Dr. Phil the other day, and they were talking about this girl, and she was like so angry. And he was talking about how there's chemical changes and stuff that go on in the brain when a kid goes through traumatic things, and that can cause them to be so angry. And I'm like, I remember times that I was angry. I broke your cracker and everything else. And evidently I threw our cousin through the closet, even though she can't get through her head. That it was a piece of paneling. It wasn't really like
You
a
still
closet wall.
shoved her head through it.
It doesn't matter. It was very thin. Any
Well,
kind
when we
of
say
little
Heather
shove.
broke my cracker, I had a hair bow that I loved, and it was a cracker with a little half sandwich on it, and I loved the way it held my hair up. And I was walking down the steps, and I was running my mouth to her, and she decided she'd just punch me in the head. and she broke my cracker and dug the metal clips into my head. And so that's why we joke and say that.
Yeah,
But she really did break my cracker.
This many years later, I still broke her cracker.
You did.
But anyway, I just remember sometimes being overcome with rage, just so angry. And I was like, why am I so mad? But it was like, I had to do something to release that anger. If I had to release the cracking.
Yeah. It didn't matter who it was.
I had to break the cracker.
Didn't matter who the victim was, but.
And I think it was because we didn't have any control over anything. And we kept it inside, and that anger and frustration had to come out somehow. I mean, if it was a head through the closet or a broken cracker, it had to come out somehow.
I think it's another reason why, like, even now, I don't go looking for, confrontations. I don't, but at the same time, it's like, well, if it happens, it happens. But I'm not worried about anything because we've gone through so much, that I'm like, I'm really not scared of what any person has when we've gone through so much that was not even human.
Real.
Yeah. I mean, so
it was real, but not real.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
It wasn't
a physical thing. It was more of a demonic.
Yeah.
Spiritual. Evil.
And that was like, as silly as it sounds, I was playing that 3D game the other day. And yeah, there were a few times that I jumped, because it was something jumping at you. But even when I was done, I was like, that was scary because it's 3D,
Right.
It was, what is virtual reality? I was like, and it's scary. I said, but at the same time, it's like,
yeah,
that was nothing compared to what we've seen, you kind of it's almost like a scary movie, when something's going to jump out at you. But when you live that forever, you don't know what's going to happen.
When you walk through a dining room and everything's normal, and then you hear a noise and walk back into that dining room because the house was circular. So you could go to the dining room from the kitchen, or you can go to the dining room from the living room. And so you walk from the kitchen into the living room, through the dining room, and everything's fine. And then you hear a noise in the dining room. You come back in the dining room, and all your chairs are in a pyramid on the table, and no one has been in there. I mean, you're looking, you're like, what's going to come at me? Because something just stacked up all these chairs and there's no one in here.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was that. I mean, you felt like you were constantly being watched, constantly had to watch over your shoulder. And what were you watching for? It was invisible.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff would just come flying at you. You didn't know it was going to come flying at you. There was not a person there that was picking this stuff up that you could see, literally picking it up, bringing their hand back and going to throw it at you.
Right.
You just saw an object coming flying. So, yeah, I mean, you were always on guard because you didn't know what was going to come flying at you or what was going to happen. It was crazy. I mean, you walk through a room that's normal, you come back 5 minutes later and the chairs are on all kinds of different orders and everything else. And there's no one there to do that.
And then, like I used to watch the paranormal shows and stuff like that, which I don't anymore, but they talk about how much energy it takes for a ghost or whatever it is to manifest or to actually cause things to happen, like throwing an object or whatever. However, that happened all the time,
right,
with us. So whatever it was that we dealt with had to be extremely powerful to be able to do everything that it did.
Well, when you started saying that, taking energy, and it requires a lot of energy, the days and times that we were totally exhausted, it was probably zapping our energy in order to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
And that's probably why, I mean, not only us staying up all hours of the night and having to deal with that and go to bed 3 o'clock in the morning, get up at 5, 6 to go to school day after day, that exhausted us, but also it using our energy to do these things.
Yeah. I remember a friend saying, so you go home every day and take a nap? And I was like, yep. Man, I don't know why you do that. And I wanted to say, well, if you lived in what we lived in every day, you would do the same thing too. Yeah.
Which, I mean, you still do that.
I do nap, I like to nap, but then it was more of like a survival thing. I'd come home from school and nap for a half an hour, 45 minutes or whatever, but that was just to kind of survive.
Right.
So now it's because I want to, because I
Right.
like to nap, but not then it wasn't.
I always feel like crap after I take a nap.
I don't. I like them.
Yeah. But
We talked about depression too, like depression, anxiety, and things like that, and how
someone had asked if depression can open doors for spiritual things. And I think that it can, because your body is down, or your mind is down.
mm-hmm.
But I think it can go both ways. I think if there's something there, it can suck the life out of you and cause depression. And I think that depression can also open doors because you're already in a decreased mental state.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way, I think, of knowing. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I don't think there's any way of really knowing unless you've got activity a whole lot, whether something is like bringing you down and sucking your energy out, or if it's just your depression is allowing stuff to happen.
Right.
There's no real way of knowing.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's just one of those, you're not going to know. I don't guess you're going to know.
Right. Because it's kind of like one of those cycles.
Yeah.
It just kind of
You don't know, like the chicken
where
and the
it
egg.
starts. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is first, the chicken or the egg?
Yes.
But is your depression and stuff like that, which depression is spiritual. I mean, it's a spirit of heaviness. So, I mean, it is depression, oppression, different things like that is a spiritual battle. But sometimes you've got the chemical things that go on too that make it more physical. So that's a hard one. Don't really know what causes
And
what.
I have to, like I've said before, like wintertime is hard. I get really bad seasonal depression and things like that. It really bothers me. But I also have to have a different mindset too, because I can let myself get in
Ruts.
Yeah, bad ruts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, and it's kind of one of those, like, for me to handle it, you can feel it. And I have to be like, yeah, okay, I cannot let this happen because it will just take over.
Yeah.
And I have to realize what's going on and change my mentality.
Right.
Because if not, I
I
can
understand.
just let myself get.
There's days that I'm like, I just want to be in the bed. I just
Mhm.
want to pull the covers over my head. I don't want to deal with anybody. I don't want to deal with anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just feel like that's not an option.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know a lot of people that do that and say that, they can't function, they can't get out of bed. But I don't know. For me, that just don't seem like an option.
But I wonder if that goes back to the fact, too, that we had to play like things were normal for so long.
Maybe.
That wasn't an option for us when we were
Right.
actually really that
Right.
depressed,
I mean, I'm sure, I don't know. I have a hard time with that. I guess people do get that depressed. I mean, you
Mhm.
hear about it all the time. But I just don't see as staying in bed as an option.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just my mentality, maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe I've never been so depressed that I literally couldn't get out of bed.
Right.
Maybe I'm fortunate enough never to have gotten in that state.
That's me, too. And that's what I'm saying is, and I know that, like, we're not trying to say we're any stronger or any better than anybody else. We've
Right.
always said that,
Right.
But like I said, I could be that person. I definitely
Yeah.
could just
I
be
could
like, I'm
too.
done. But, well, now, I have a little one, so I can't be that way. But even before that, it was like, no, I can't. I have to.
Overcome it.
Yeah, I do.
I can't let this whoop me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that is the mindset that I have too. I mean, in my head, I can picture me just not dealing with nothing and going to bed and
Mm-hmm.
just laying in the bed and just whatever. Don't
And I
talk
guess
to
to
me.
an extent, I kind of do that now because, if I'm having a bad day or bad few days or whatever, like 7:30 in the evening, I'm like, I'm done today. I'm done. like I have everything ready, dinner's ready or whatever, I'm going to bed, or I'm going to go in there and just be. So, and thank goodness my husband lets me do that, to just kind of recuperate. Because if not, I feel like I could get myself into
I feel guilty when I do anything like that.
I have to do that sometimes
Maybe I should.
because I don't deal.
Maybe I should clock out for a little while.
I can't. Like, and there are days when I'm like, I can't. I have to be done.
Right. I mean, there have been times where I'm like, I'm going to my room and I'll turn on my Christian music and just start praying and stuff like that, because I feel like I'm being pressed and squashed down by evil presences, and just it's sucking the life out of me. So I feel like I have to refill myself. And in order to do that, I have to connect with God. But just to say, well, I think I'm done for the day, I'm going to go to bed, I would feel guilty for stepping out of the role I'm supposed to be in. It's just me, though. I think that it's just I put so much on me.
But we have different spouses too.
Well, I don't think the one I have now would care.
No, I don't mean that.
Right. The one,
mine is
the others I've had probably would have been like, no, you're not doing that. But
a lot of times mine would rather be on the couch by himself versus me being there. It just depends on the day. We both kind of are like that,
Right.
So, because he'll be like, I got to go to the garage for a little while, so I guess he takes that time too. We just do it differently.
Well, mine has been going to bed at 8:00 saying, I'm just going to go watch football. And I know good well, as soon as his head hits the pillow, he was snoring. So I'm like,
so even if they don't like come out and say, I'm done for the day. Yeah. Then
I feel though that I just can't. I don't know. I just can't. I feel
well,
like
I guess by that time I already have just about everything done. I mean, there's not much left. I mean, like after that, I'm just going to be sitting on the couch, not doing much of anything anyway. I mean, so I just don't want to have no desire to socialize. Like I don't have any desire to that. Do I tell my little one he can't come in there and lay down with me? No, come on. You're good.
Right.
But I'm done being in here.
Right.
I'm done being vertical. I want to just be laying down and not have to worry about anything else. And that's it, and I've done that. And that's just how I deal with things sometimes,
Right.
So, yeah.
I guess everybody deals with everything differently. And I just push myself. And that's back to being like pretending everything's fine. I just stay in my role. And in my role and shut my hole.
Yeah. So I
turn into the Rock.
I just can't do it sometimes, you know what I mean? And like that's to me, I'm just kind of being mentally aware too of what my body can and can't do and my mind can and can't do. And so, and everybody's different. Like you say, everybody is different how they handle things. So
right. I shut down, but I'm still present.
So
I shut down all the time and I'm still present. I'm being bodily, I'm still there. Mentally, I'm gone. That's why when we're done, I'm done. So I guess, I don't just like go lay out and stretch out in the bed and be done that way. But mentally, I'm done. We can have a conversation. I can't tell you anything you said because I've done clocked out.
And like I said, it's not like, don't come in here and bother me. Don't come in here and talk to me. The door's open,
I guess for a while, maybe my going and taking a hot bath and just being away from people. I guess that could have been my clocking out time. I don't do that a whole lot anymore. Like in the evening, just be like, I've had too much stress today. I'm just going to go take a hot bath.
Right.
I think I don't know. I try not to be stressed too much. I try to be like, you know what? Can't change it. It is what it is. Can't do nothing about it. I'm not going to stress it.
But we're also at different points in our lives. when you had 5-year-olds, you were as stressed as I am now. And so
I don't know. I have a 23-year-old that can stress me pretty good too.
yeah, so I
I
mean,
just try to act like it doesn't faze me.
mm-hmm.
Like calling me and wanting to be like, oh yeah, I think Loki, that was the Norse whatever. I think that might be God. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever.
I'm like, I'm going to argue with you because I don't know nothing about Norse, whatever it is, Norse code or whatever this stuff is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Norse, what is it? Norse religion? Mythology? Norse
Like-
mythology. I was like, are you saying north as in north, south, east, west, or Norse as in like horse with an N? And they're like, Norse. I was like, I don't even know what it is. I was like, I can't argue whether you're right, wrong, close, not close. I don't know.
And then we choose too, like who we're around that kind of makes us that way too. Like if I
Yeah.
have,
I'm around nobody.
yeah, I mean, like there's, and you know, I'm around people all day,
Yeah.
and sometimes you have to bite your tongue and
Yeah.
just because the type of work that I do and you used to do, you could be rude to people, but it's kind of frowned upon, you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and so you have to figure out how to handle people with different attitudes and things like that sometimes. And
Yeah.
sometimes by the end of the day, if you have a couple of those, I'm just like, yeah,
That's-
I'm done people. And
I haven't been able to work like for over a year.
mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that sort of when I think about going back and working with like the public, that's something that gives me anxiety is having to deal with people and their different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And being an introvert, it's so hard to be extrovert. It's like you're pushing yourself to be out there all day long when you're not a real people-y person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that is one of the aspects that I think sends me into anxiety quicker than anything else. It's
Right.
like dealing with all the different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like I don't know. I don't know that I want to deal with that, but I mean, it is what it is. But I've
Right.
noticed too that my personality has changed. I am a little bit more open. I can start conversations a little bit better now. I just don't feel as stressed about being around people now.
Right.
But it's not an I have to. It's that I get to or I don't have to.
Right.
If I'm feeling like today I cannot be around people that it's going to be too much on me, I don't have to.
Right.
But if I'm in a mood and I'm like, yeah, I don't care to go out and I can have conversations with people, start conversations, be just as nice as and cordial as can be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just for me, it's a choice now. Whereas I'm not thrown into that and you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So having to is more sort of an anxiety thing for me.
Right. And I get that. Yeah.
So are we good for this week or do you have more that you want to add? See, I did better. I didn't say, okay, we're done.
Yes. No, I think we're good.
Yeah,
Just talking about how people stay in circumstances because of
what's expected.
brainwashing and
Yeah.
things too, and then also just how everybody deals with things differently.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we will end for this week and be back next week. You all have a good week. Bye.